So for this section, we'll be talking about external validity and threats to external validity. External validity is the ability to generalize our findings to different times, different places, different populations. So it's really about going outside of our study, our particular focus, and saying, what can we say about the world at large, over time, over place, over people? The threats to that validity really come from three different interactions, or at least the main ones I'll talk about. So all of those are related to kind of what I've already spoken to about what external validity is. Selection, the population we have, the setting in time, and the history, or what happened to the folks in my group that interacted somehow with the treatment, or what or the independent variables that I'm looking at. So those are the threats. They're pretty straightforward, and they all kind of fall into a similar. So we'll talk about them a little bit, and we'll also talk about what we can do to maximize external validity. So interaction of selection and treatment. Those we select for our study have a different reaction to the program, to the treatment, to the whatever we do to them than others. For some reason, the group we got was different. So if you think about leadership development program, we select high potentials, we put them through the program, we teach them, we give them some special experiences, we give them some classroom training, and we give them some extra feedback through a coach or through their supervisor. It's hard to generalize the findings for those high potentials to now say, well, you know what, that works so well, why don't we do that for all our managers that are not high potentials? Well, it may be because they were high potentials, they were identified as high potentials and told that they were high potentials, that they were paying attention, they were motivated, they were engaged, versus all managers like, why am I here and why do I have to know this? Because I have other things I should be doing. So it's really hard to then say I could apply that to all groups or all people beyond just the sample that I looked at and actually worked with. So that's the interaction of the selection and the treatment. Next, interaction of the setting and the treatment. The results from one setting may not work in another. So if you think about, we do a recognition program where we give out thank you cards, and the thank you cards are worth so many points, and then those points are built up over time, and you can get a gift card for something. That may work in a hospital because there's a lot of interaction, and we see what each other's doing, and there's a bit of a social connection there, and it really does kind of work to get people excited and energized about the program. Conversely, and those are setting-based issues, right? That we have that opportunity to connect, know each other, and really see our work. In manufacturing, if you think kind of an old school assembly line, I may not know what the person next to me is doing, or 10 rows down, and I don't have that opportunity for the social connection or social interaction. So it would be difficult for me to say with certainty that I could take this program out of the hospital and make it work in manufacturing, because it might be a combination of the program, the recognition program that I've developed, and the setting it was in, the hospital, that made it work. So I would have to be careful about externalizing it or saying they could work anywhere without doing some further study. The third threat to external validity is the interaction of history and treatment. And the results that we see here may not hold true for other points in time. So it may be there was something going on in that group's or individual's history that made them successful or not successful, and that won't hold over a period of time. So if you think back to the tech bubble, the early 2000s, there were a lot of people who were picking stocks and getting rich and being coming up with great theories for and formulas for what makes that whole stock picking process work. And they were right in their time slice, right? In that time during the bubble, they built a model that was good, and it worked, and it made a lot of sense. But to externalize that and take it now to today's marketplace, a lot of them failed completely. So it's the inability to kind of replicate that event, or that effect of, yes, I can pick the successful stocks ahead of time. How do we replicate that over time? It may be there was something going on in the history of our study that prevents us from being able to replicate the findings, the results over time. So those are the three. You see, they all kind of have a similar vein to them. And here are the couple of things you can do to kind of maximize external validity. One is if we can randomly select people to our study. Now, random selection, random assignment are different. Random selection is we can randomly pull people into our population in our pool. Random assignment is once we get them in the pool, we can randomly put them in either a treatment condition or a not treatment condition. But random selection is, can we randomly sample from whoever our target population is? And if we can, that kind of minimizes some of the risks that we deal with, because they're not a convenient sample. It's not that we got people who volunteered and were more excited. It's not the high potential sample that people came in. We kind of moderate the history a little bit, because we come in with a variety of histories, not all kind of chosen based on a particular history. So we minimize the risk of that history treatment interaction. So that's kind of the biggest opportunity within maximizing external validity. There are two other things that we can do or should do to try and manage these threats to external validity. One is be very clear about how we selected people. How did we get people into this treatment? What were the conditions of the time? What were the conditions of the setting, the situation? How can we describe the folks who actually wound up in the study? So that descriptiveness is to help others then determine whether or not they feel like our study is generalizable to their situation. So not really controlling it for ourselves, but for others, helping them understand where the study is generalizable and where it's not. The other thing we can do to maximize external validity is replication. So, for instance, if we have that program of recognition that we do in hospitals, well, let's take it out and try it even on a smaller scale in manufacturing before we start to make the claim that it is generalizable. So replications over time, over place, over samples absolutely contribute to the quality of external validity of a study and of the concepts or the constructs that we're studying. So those are three ways to help increase external validity, and a description of the three threats. And so that is it for this lecture.